right there.
Boom. Recording in progress.
Love this.
So hey, we were
Say
just
that over again. Say
yeah.
say that over again about the three things.
Okay, yeah, so we were just talking about transitioning careers, in this case specifically out of the military. It could be into 4 years, into 10 years, or 20 or more. But really, I've told some other buddies as I'm a year and a half out now. And it comes down to three things just for mindset. Number one is what everybody tells you it will be like. Number two, what you think it will be like. And then number three, what it actually is like. So then I would pause there and say, ignore the first two. Don't put any brain power on into that because it's either going to set up disappointment, it's going to set up anxiety for you about it, or it's going to match exactly what those first two were, and the chances of that are like zero. Because if somebody tells you what it was like for them, that's just their experience. It doesn't mean it'll be like that for you. So
I think it's funny also that when I was in, I was seeking a lot of advice from people that were still in. and
right, that's pretty funny.
and
Yeah,
the people that were still in wanted to give you that advice,
yeah,
but they didn't have any experience
yeah,
doing it themselves, right?
yeah. Because everybody's scenario is different, right? And so you can only speak to your experience, right? So if I am telling someone who's on the thinking about or on the path to get out, I'm very clear to articulate this is what it was like for me, and these were my circumstances. So pull a nugget from that, throw the rest away if you want. But it's smart to talk to people, just to get different perspectives. But hopefully you do that with any major decision you make. But I mean, my circumstance, as you know, was 12 years in one area, lots of different jobs. But I tell people here in Tyler, Texas, they say, why Tyler, Texas? And the military community was like, what's in Tyler, Texas? Um, so as we were phasing out of the military, we just started to look at the things that were important to us, whatever they are, school, being close to the beat, whatever it is. You and your family have your own set of things that are important, church community, whatever it is. So we made a list of what was important and then decided, like, should we go or stay, like in from California where we were.
Yeah.
And, for the first time in 20 years, I got to completely choose where I wanted to live, like without
Yeah.
any influence outside of my own head and my wife and kids' input, which was a weird thing.
Yeah.
Um, but I was also extremely busy in my last job. So a lot of folks that are getting out, they have a twilight tour, which is, they're not really involved at work. Some people, right? But I was the XO of 1,200 person command, and it was real busy. Oh,
Yeah.
real busy. So
Yeah.
I was able to phase out on my own a little bit, but I really uprooted my family. I did maybe what some would consider stupid. I left an area where my resume was translatable, and I could go to these major companies, L3, Northrop Grumman, whatever they are, entities I'd worked with over the past 20 years, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll take you." And instead, I left all that, picked a place that I knew my family would thrive in, and loved my wife and her vote of confidence. But I said, what am I going to do in Tyler, Texas? She said, you're great. You'll figure it out.
Love that.
What? So it took me a year, but I did. So, you
It was
know,
probably a little scary though too, huh?
well, it was super panicky, right? Because, as um, just understanding the weight that I hold as like the breadwinner, the leader of our family, um, my wife she only understands that so much. And some of this is my own self-doubt or whatever, but there's a weight of, okay, I've provided this far. How am I going to provide going forward? It took me a year, man. And I was offered some jobs that I said no to. I applied to some jobs that I was told no to. Um, and I just kept hearing from the Lord, like, just wait, just be patient. Um, and then I rolled into this job that I'm in now, like right where I want to be. People say you get two out of the three: job, location, and money. I got three out of the three, man, like hands down. So it's been a real blessing.
Hey, did you find anything? with this experience as far as well, one, waiting on the Lord and going to the Lord, and two, um, I think all of us, especially specifically men, I think we all have this idea as the role that we play, the only role that we play as provider, is the money side of providing.
Yeah, no way. Yeah.
But there's so much more as quote unquote provider, that I think that we miss out on. And
Hmm.
I'm curious if this year this year, year and a half of being out and waiting gave you an opportunity to provide in other ways.
Um, well, first I would start with my understanding of provider. And yeah, financially is certainly one of them.
Yeah.
And I would say my military career was um, different than your stock 20-year military guy. People say, "Oh, do you run the house like you're driving a ship? You run your household like," and I'm like, actually, no way, man. Like my kids, we moved to Texas and my kids were like, "Why does everybody make me call them sir?" And I was like, "Because you should." That's how I grew up in
Yeah, that's right.
northern Missouri. But it was funny pulling here, moving here, and folks were like, my kids just realized like, oh, this is an expectation here with kind of culture. But to your point of being a provider, I tried to shape my life like that, not just financially, but spiritually, physically. Yes, the physical protection of your family, like that's a thing, right? Having an emergency plan, that kind of things, providing financially, but even just showing conflict resolution with your wife, loving your wife, coming home after a long, busy day, and no matter what, you show up and you say, "What can I do to help?" That's a mindset shift. So like that's providing, being present. But even doing that in the military, I didn't realize how much I was gone until I wasn't gone.
Yeah, dude.
Right. I didn't realize that until, I wasn't part of the inside jokes. My last job was shore duty, but I was still home at 7, 8 o'clock at night, phone ringing off the hook.
Yeah.
All my kids know is that I wasn't there. Now they wouldn't say, I guess you'd have to ask them, but I don't think they would say, "Oh, my dad's not present." Like we have tons of pictures of hikes and beach and mountain bikes and dirt bikes and camping and all this stuff. But even that, I didn't realize the weight of being gone until I was in a position that I wasn't. So I didn't want to come to Tyler, Texas after retirement and just busy up. I looked at a lot of opportunities. I could have walked into a medevac job out here. Literally, the deal, like helicopter pilot,
Yep.
2,500 hours, tons of leadership, tons of goggle hours. Like, here you go. Here's my resume. They're like, "Yeah, we're short. We'll take you tomorrow."
Hired. Yeah.
Hired. And I say this carefully in the right crowd because it's an honorable career and they do a great thing. But I didn't want to go sit in a shack for 12 hours a day, 7 days on, 7 days off, and wait for the call. Like, they don't pay tons for the risk you're taking, but it's not about the money. But you're not going to get me on the honor thing. Like, yeah, but it's an honorable job. Like, yeah, man, I did that for 20 years. I'd rather honorably be present with my kids. Right.
Dude.
So now I'm in a position where as a leadership consultant, executive trainer, really with this company, everybody there's a Christian. I create my own schedule. I have coffee with people to talk about things. I'm a youth pastor at our church and I coach baseball. Like, oh, my son's getting an award at school. Yes, I'll be there.
I'll be there.
I'll be there. And that's pretty cool to say. So it's been fun.
Yeah, man. Last time we talked, before we hit the record button, last time we talked, you're erring towards going airlines. I'm curious, what made
Yeah,
you
man.
change that decision?
Well, so there's what everybody says it would be like, right?
Mhm.
And there's this influence of what you should do. And this was hard. I'm gonna get a little bit raw here for a second, but everybody's doing it. Everybody's going airlines. I could very easily justify not going to be a medevac pilot, although that would make maybe the most sense because I had a directly translatable skill set. There's bases close here, but airline, there's such a pilot shortage. They're hiring even helicopter guys and they're paying for it.
Yeah.
And Evan's personal idea on that, like my mindset is like, man, the money is fantastic. It's stupid. It's stupid money.
Yep.
And then the um the job itself, is pretty cool. Like people like to say, oh, I'm an airline pilot. Hey, how do you know if there's a pilot in the room, Stu? How do you
I
know?
tell them.
Yeah, you'll tell them, right? Like they'll tell you. That's
I'll tell you.
exactly right. But really it was, and the travel benefits are incredible, like fly your kids to wherever, right? So those two things are very lucrative, and these great ideas, this picture of awesome and perfect. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you go do that? But man, it was the other things that kept telling me no. And I felt like stupid. Am I missing an opportunity here? You're not guaranteed the closest big airport is your homestead. That adds a day or so on the time, on the travel time. The money's great, but really for me, man, like I think a year or so in, I would like not really love that job. But all my
Yeah.
buddies are doing it so much so that it's like, man, am I being an idiot here that I wouldn't take this $1 million second career, fly my kids anywhere in the world for essentially free? Um, and a lot of guys, I've had a lot of great buddies do this where they're like, Evan, I only work 7 days a month. Right. I do 2 or 3 lines. I've been with the company a year and a half, and I've already got the overseas line with United, and it's awesome. I have 3 weeks off. Or there's long reserve, but I just didn't want the attachment. I'm still not present. All my kids knows I'm gone, and they'd rather tell their buddies I'm a pilot than a leadership executive trainer, right? But like I get paid to tell stories and help people grow in skill sets that aren't as common to them. So that's super cool.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man, I had the similar thought process. And
Yeah.
I mean, I was even more in line, you had a direct hire from helicopter pilot to medevac pilot. Like I had a direct
Yeah.
hire from Boeing 737 type rating,
Yeah. Yeah.
tons of hours in that
Oh
to
yeah.
to walk right over to Southwest Airlines or
Yeah.
American Airlines in Dallas and do that. And I just was like, even 7 days out of the month, even 14 days out of the month, like I just really had a really hard time. Like I was at a place where, dude, I wanted to take my kids to school every single day
Yeah.
and be like the first car in car line to pick them up every single day.
Yeah.
Like you said, if my kid's getting an award, I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be the dad on Fridays that volunteers to like hand out lunches, or be the dad that like drives, for the field trip to school, right?
Yeah.
And there's not many of those. The last field trip I went on, volunteered as the driver. There was 2 dads, and there was
Yeah.
10 moms,
Yeah.
and like
And
that to me is being a provider, right?
it is. Yeah.
That to me is being a provider.
Yeah. Being a provider. So this is something I brought into this company that I'm with now, as far as like a value. Um, and I even gave a little leadership snippet online about this, but if you understand, like in your mindset, that your position in a company, your role doesn't indicate value. Your position doesn't indicate value first. Your position indicates assignment. You see the difference
Yeah.
there? Like, is a
Yeah.
CEO more valuable than, I'm just going to say, mail clerk? Not that companies have mail clerks anymore, right? But in a squadron, right? Is the commanding officer more valuable as a person? I'm talking, not to the company. Is the commanding officer more valuable than the pubs officer or the GDUNC manager? No. Those are just indicators of your assignment. And so when you talked about your role as a provider, it's the same thing in the home. And that's a biblical model we see, right? Ephesians 5:25, that's what it's about. By the way, read that. There's a lot more descriptions of how a husband should be. There are a lot more verses there than there are for the wives. Why do you think
Yeah.
that is? So your position as the leader of the family, spiritual leader, that doesn't indicate your value. And a lot of times that's taken out of context, where companies, organizations, people, individuals say, "Oh, you're just this misogynistic Christian that thinks the men is at the top of the food chain." It's like, no, I'm to love my wife and family because Christ loved me like that first, through all my trash, through all my troubles, through all my dark-heartedness, which, by the way, I'm dark-hearted and trash and trouble, right? Like I don't deserve anything. I've just been given it out of grace. So bringing that to the business mindset it's a game changer. It's like, yeah, I'm not more valuable than you. I just have a different assignment in the workplace. So, and I don't want to talk, it's amazing being the dad that can be at school pickup, but people romanticize that, especially when you're super busy at work. You're like, "Oh, I just want to be present for my kids." And that's an honorable thing. But there's a level of, there's a sliding scale on that. Babylon B nails it every time, right? Show a picture of a dad working from home on his computer, kids all over him. He's like, dad who just wanted to be present for kids is kind of annoyed being around kids, right?
Yeah, dude.
And man, 1 year, Stu. So like I tried all these things. I spent a lot of time praying, like, God, what do you want me to do? What are my talents? How can you use me? And I applied to the executive director of a nonprofit, a Christian nonprofit, and I thought I was a shoe-in. 99% of the people wanted me, but one person didn't, and I didn't get the job. And I was like, okay, well, now what? But there was a time there in that year where, my wife was like, hey, how's the job hunt going? Why didn't you just take the airlines? And
What
I'm
are you
like,
doing today,
what
buddy?
are you doing today? And I'm like, well, and I'm a hands-on guy. I do projects and all the things, but it was painful to just be around and have nothing to do,
Yeah.
and I started to panic a little bit, but I'm also in a position because of retirement and my VA disability that I technically don't need a 9 to 5, but I was willing to go get one to provide for my family, right? So it's been a journey for sure.
I love it, man. I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing. I think more people need to hear this, right?
Yeah, it was Stu, my entire retirement speech was essentially about leading and being present and not having to fall in love with the rank on your shoulder or your title. Um, I mean, a good portion was like, if you need a title to lead, you're in the wrong job, and open your home, open your wallet. But that year off really made me think, man, maybe I valued my position as a pilot and an officer in the Navy a lot more than I thought I did. You know, I I don't know. I guess one of my leadership strengths is connecting with people. There's two things, connection and execution, to be a successful leader. You have to have both. Think back on all the positions you've been in or been led through. And like sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other. Very rarely is it both.
Yeah.
Man, and I would just talk with people and they would say things like, we could be ourselves around your husband. They said this to my wife in my retirement. Man, Commander Young's awesome to be around because he's like one of us. And so a lot of part of my speech was about that, just like be yourself, be a person. It's not about your job title or the rank on your shoulder. But during that year of whatever it was, trying to find a job in a town I'm not familiar with, that
40
really,
years in the desert.
yeah, man, that really challenged me, man. I was like, wow, okay, maybe I put more stock into that than I thought. And so
Well,
as we got,
it's an identity. It's an
yeah,
identity that
that's
you
right.
have for 20 years. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden that identity is gone.
Yep. Yep. And I didn't even tell you how I got the current job I'm in, but we met a couple really good families through the private Christian school that my kids go to. It's a real small school, but it's awesome to be with like-minded parents, school administrators. It's a partnership. And my son became really good friends with some other kids, and we got to know that family. And so now we have like 2 or 3 core families that we're out to dinner with every night. We talk together, do different things. So this guy got to know me and kind of heard all the job woes about I'm trying here and what about this. And he's like, man, let me flip me your resume. Let me just take a look. I know a company that is like a placement company essentially. And so it took about a year, but he took a risk and was like, hey man, he's like, I've got a meeting with the client. Do you want to just come with me? And I did. And sure enough, man, he founded this company 2.5 years ago called Express Pros Training. And man, we're more than just a traveling company that produces content for you. It's not this transactional class on communication. It's, we partner with companies and organizations to provide sustainable health, purpose, and results. One of the ways we do that is by training managers and developing leaders. We just, as people, like we believe that you're created to thrive, and that extends to the workplace. Like, why can't you have both?
Yeah.
So that's the company I work for, man. He's the founder, and I'm like one of his main right-hand executive trainers. We have a deep bench of folks, but a lot of them have their own kind of gigs or professors or have their own consulting businesses, but I'm in the office every day. And So it's turned out to be a great partnership. And like I said, I get to kind of work my own schedule and plug in as much or as little as I want.
That's great, dude. And it fits directly with your unique abilities.
Yeah, wild, huh? Hey, Evan, slow down, wait on me. But I want to be clear about something. Like, waiting on the Lord does not mean be passive,
Sure.
right? If you're a provider and you're listening to the Lord to lead your family, it doesn't mean sit around and wait for something to fall in your lap. You know,
Yeah.
in Exodus, man, in Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Moses goes up to Mount Sinai the second time, and God says, wake up early. Not that you have to do that, but God told Moses to do that and cut from the rock these two stones. Those are two actions. And Moses did that. And guess what God did? He provided. Right. So it doesn't mean sit around and be passive. It just means be patient, wait on the Lord mentally. Right. So, because guess what? He has a better plan than I do. Weird.
Crazy.
Yeah. Crazy.
Oh, dude, this is good. Let's hit the stop record because that was pure gold. And then I just want to like